Okay, so even with the massive success of Inside Out 2 and the massive failure of Elio, Pixar is still not giving up on making original movies. As very recently, they've announced that they're releasing a completely original movie in June of 2027 named Gatto, from the same director that brought us 2021's Luca. According to Pixar themselves, the movie takes place in Italy, much like Luca, where the movie will follow a black cat named Nero. Indebted into a feline mob boss, Nero finds himself to forge an unexpected friendship that may finally lead him to his purpose. Obviously, given the fact that this movie was only announced just recently, and we're not going to see anything from it for another 2 years, we can't really say much about it. We have no idea if the movie's going to be good, if it's going to be bad, I don't know. But it's nice to see that Pixar is not giving up on original movies. And assuming Incredibles 3 comes out in 2028, we now have Pixar's full lineup for the movies that they're putting out in the 2020s, in which a majority of these movies are completely original stories. It's a shame that these movies aren't necessarily on the same level of quality as their golden age material from the 2000s, but at least they're original movies. I gotta respect them for trying something new, trying original ideas and whatnot. I've noticed with this movie, there's been a bit of discourse surrounding it, where people believe that this movie is trying to copy Flow from 2024, which notably won Best Animated Feature at the Oscars this year over Inside Out 2. Flow is a movie that follows a black cat, much like Gatto, and so people believe that this is Pixar trying to retaliate and just copying someone else's homework. A movie about a black cat won Best Animated Feature instead of our own movie. Let's make a movie about a black cat ourselves. Now, even if I am critical towards Disney and Pixar nowadays, I will acknowledge that this is ridiculous to say. This whole thing reminds me of back before Coco came out, there were people that thought like it was going to be a ripoff of the Book of Life because both movies follow the Day of the Dead. They focus on the Day of the Dead, and I'll admit it, I haven't seen the Book of Life in forever. I don't remember much from it, but maybe there are a few similarities in it, besides the fact that they're both about the same holiday, but generally I think they're different enough movies. The fact that in retrospect I see no one complain that this movie rips off the Book of Life or anything like that makes me think that, it's not really much of a rip-off. This isn't like a Bug's Life Ants situation or anything like that. These are two movies that are very different. They have a lot of similarities, but ultimately they're different enough to not be compared to. And I feel like the same thing is gonna happen between Flow and Gatto. And I think these movies have even fewer similarities than Coco and the Book of Life. Both movies have a black cat as the main protagonist, and that's seemingly where the comparisons end. And I guarantee you, most people probably wouldn't look at this movie and assume this is Pixar trying to rip off Flow if the cat was a different color, if it was a white cat, if it was an orange cat, if it was anything like that. Maybe have it be like a tuxedo cat, I don't know. Nobody would be calling the movie a Flow ripoff. But it's the fact that the main character of this movie is going to be a black cat, and the main character of Flow was a black cat as well. And that is most likely where the similarities between the two movies are going to end. Even if it does turn out that this movie is trying to rip off Flow, it's like, we're getting more movies where black cats are the main protagonists. You say that like it's a bad thing. You treat it like it's a bad thing that we're getting another animated movie where a black cat is the main character. I don't know what to expect from this movie, but I'm instantly more sold on it than any other upcoming Pixar movie just because a black cat is the main protagonist. I'm sorry, that's just how I am. Even if we know nothing about this movie, there are a couple of things that concern me about the movie. For one thing, there's the fact that it's the same director as Luca that's making the movie. This movie is going to be from the same person that gave us Luca, and It's not that Luca is a bad movie or anything like that. My main concern is this movie takes place in Italy, just like Luca, and so there is a chance that this movie could run the risk of coming off as being like derivative of Luca. Of course, there's a chance this movie could be different enough from Luca, even if both films take place in the same setting. If Pixar ever made another movie that took place in Paris, I'm sure they would find a way to make it different enough from Ratatouille. But the risk is there for this movie to end up being an unintentional Luca 2, due to the fact that it's from the same director as Luca, and it takes place in Italy just like Luca, and so there won't be much to differentiate this movie from Luca. There's also the fact as well that this is an original movie, and we all know like the whole discourse going on that like Hollywood doesn't make original movies anymore, Pixar doesn't make original movies anymore. As I mentioned before at the beginning, Inside Out 2 was a monumental success for Pixar. It's their highest grossing movie, and at one point it was the highest grossing animated movie of all time. And then their very next movie, Elio, is looking to be a box office bomb. To be honest, I don't really feel like making a separate video going over this, so I think I'll just give my 2 cents on Elio right now. I like Elio. I thought it was a cute movie. It's not a masterpiece, but it's not trying to be a masterpiece, and it doesn't need to be a masterpiece either. Everything that it sets out to do, it does a good job at doing. It's not one of Pixar's finer films, but it doesn't really need to be honest. Well, actually, I think the movie would need to be one of Pixar's finer movies in order to be successful at the box office, but yeah, I'll go into detail about that right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give Elio a 7. Perfectly good movie, perfectly fine, it's cute, I liked it, and yet I understand why it's not doing very well at the box office. I'm not saying that I want this movie to fail, I'm not saying that I'm glad this movie is failing, I'm just saying even though I like the movie, I kinda understand why it's not doing very well. For one thing, the marketing for this movie was horrible. It was very clear that Disney was prioritizing more the live-action Lilo and Stitch remake than this movie. I've seen a lot of people online say that they had no idea this movie was coming out, they didn't know this movie existed, that sort of thing. The first trailer for this movie came out around 2023, and it was supposed to come out in early 2024, and then it ended up getting delayed to 2025. Apparently this movie went through a form of development hell, to the point where like the entire story of the movie had to be changed. Like apparently the original teaser trailer for the movie had a completely different plot from what the final movie ended up being. And I want to imagine that did not help out at all when it came to audience interest in this movie. There's also the fact as well that there is a lot of competition within the summer blockbuster season this year. You have Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon, which I want to imagine more people would want to go and see these movies. Like the family market would be more interested in these movies than in Elio. And then you have F1, which was an unexpected hit. No one expected it to be as successful as it was. And then, most of all, you have the big 3 July movies, Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman, and Fantastic Four First Steps. It is a very cramped summer blockbuster season this year, and so that doesn't really leave Elio with much room to breathe in. And then, in comparison, Gatto, for the time being, doesn't have as much competition. I mean, again, 2027 is 2 years away from us. Surely, like, next year in 2026, we'll get more information on the movies that are coming out in 2027. But for the time being, the only real competition that Gatto has is the live-action How to Train Your Dragon 2, and Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, both of which are very likely going to be strong competition for this movie. And now in advance, I'm just going to go ahead and say, Can we not have some bullcrap war between Beyond the Spider-Verse and Gatto, please? Let's not do that. Listen, I was okay with it. I let it slide when we did this for Incredibles 2 versus Into the Spider-Verse, because Incredibles 2 was such a fucking letdown of a sequel, and Into the Spider-Verse was like a work of art, and they're both superhero movies as well, one of which was a movie that a lot of people have been waiting for an extremely long time, and the other movie no one expected to be as good as it was, because the previous year the studio that released it released the Emoji Movie, and their reputation was at an all-time low, and so there weren't exactly high expectations for this Spider-Man animated movie. And then it ended up blowing everyone's expectations away. And then in 2023, we had Elemental versus Across the Spider-Verse, and I mean, yeah, again, Across the Spider-Verse is the much better movie. But I don't know, I feel like Elemental was actually a pretty good movie, even with the very questionable marketing the movie had. And then with these two movies, it's like, no, please no, okay, listen, Beyond the Spider-Verse is gonna be peak, I'm excited for it, but like, leave the cat alone, okay? He's a funny little weird guy, and I like him. Alright, listen, I agree Beyond the Spider-Verse is gonna be peak, and it probably will be the better movie, but like, leave the cat alone, please, okay? Leave the cat alone. That's all I ask, please. And then going back to Elio, there's also the fact as well that it is an original movie, but it's not an original movie, if that makes sense. Let me explain what I mean. It's original in the sense that it's not a sequel or a remake or an adaptation of an already existing story, but it's not exactly original in the sense that it's not a very, like, unique, remarkable movie. It has a very, like, safe, been there, done that vibe to it. Everything that it sets out to do, it does a good job at doing, but it doesn't set out to do anything like remarkable or amazing. It is a movie that plays it mostly safe, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but this leaves audiences not exactly interested in wanting to go and see this movie. Gatto, from what little we know about it, does seem like it'll have an interesting premise, and I think it could be a bigger success. It could be more of a hit film with families because the main character is a black cat. I feel like this cat character, could end up being like very marketable because, I mean, like, everyone loves cats. I want to imagine there are a lot of people that would want to go and see this movie just because the main character is a cat. Then again, though, Lightyear also had a cute cat character, and well, we all know how that film turned out. But I do think having the main character of the movie be a cat could help make the movie successful, or at least make it so that, like, audiences, like, families would be more wanting to see the movie because of that. They're gonna have their kids going on about how they want to see the cute cat movie in theaters, and that could potentially have the movie be a hit. Out of all the upcoming Pixar movies that we're getting, this is the one that I'm most interested in. Yes, I'm more interested in this movie than Incredibles 3, because there is a chance that Incredibles 3 could be underwhelming and disappointing like Incredibles 2. Apparently Brad Bird isn't directing Incredibles 3 like he did the first two films. He's still going to be involved with the movie, he's still going to be writing and producing the movie if I'm correct, but it's going to be someone else directing it. It's like, I think it's the guy that directed Elemental that's directing it, I'm not sure, but it's not Brad Bird that's directing Incredibles 3. On the one hand, though, that does make me kind of concerned, but on the other hand, though, he is still going to be heavily involved with the movie, and he did direct Incredibles 2, and we all know how that film turned out. But looking past that, there is a chance that Incredibles 3 could be a disappointment like Incredibles 2. And I mean, I guess there is a chance that Gatto could be a disappointment as well, but I feel like there's an even stronger chance for Incredibles 3 to be a disappointment, and I feel like it would hurt more to have Incredibles 3 be a disappointment, compared to having Gatto be a disappointment. Out of Pixar's upcoming slate of movies, this is the one that I am the most interested in, and it's just because of Black Cat, and that's it. I know for a fact that even with what I said earlier, people are still going to pit this movie up against Beyond the Spider-Verse, and it's like, nah man, I want this movie to be good alongside Beyond the Spider-Verse. I want the third installment of Peak. I want the greatest animated movie trilogy to be completed. And then I also want funny Black Cat movie. I don't care. I want both. Why can't I have both? Why can't I have both? I let it slide for Incredibles 2. I didn't really let it slide for Elemental. I am most certainly not going to let it slide for Gatto, okay? Please, leave the cat alone, okay? Leave the cat alone. Anyways, that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to like, and if you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing, as it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I will see y'all next time. Adios.